Hello everyone, I am John and this is RPGs and More. And in today's episode, I'd like to talk to you about dying in RPGs, or death and dying as a way of talking about it. And what I want to mention is what we can do, or the different perceptions of this as it affects our games, and what we can do to make it maybe more interesting or more acceptable to our players. Because I don't think it's a secret that many players do not like the idea of their characters dying in a role-playing game for various reasons. Now, this is more common with 5th edition and other modern, more narrative-based role-playing games where death is considered something that should be a narrative event and not just the result of a random die roll. But it's not uncommon with some older editions of D&D as well. And in some cases, there's actually some good reason behind this. It may be that the player has had some personal past trauma that they do not wish to delve into in something that is supposed to be an entertainment, and so they just don't want to deal with death in and of itself. They're happy to have their character get defeated in any number of other ways, just don't kill their character. Okay. Another thing might be that the player they spent a long time making that character. I mean, you can spend hours making a character in 5th edition, especially if you're not using a program like D&D Beyond. This is not an advertisement for them. And that time is an investment, and it's really frustrating for anyone when you invest that much time into a character and then have them get destroyed in the first game session by some goblins or something else. Excuse me. So I can understand that. I'm sure that most dungeon masters can understand that kind of frustration. After all, we've probably had some similar experiences. In 3rd edition and 3.5, it was a long time to create a character, and it was not fun when your character ended up getting killed in the first 2 sessions, after spending so much time designing the character, especially if you're the kind of person who designs a character build from level 1 to level 20 before the campaign even begins at level 1. So these are problems. And it's important for us, excuse me, my nose is itching, something terrible. It's important for us to at least have some empathy for these players, even if that's not how we want to play. Maybe we like the idea of death at 0 hit points, no saving throws, no death saves, just you reach 0 and you're dead. That's a very old school Renaissance way of looking at things. And I'm not saying that it's incorrect, because when you're running a very old school game, that is part of what happens when you explore. One moment, my cat is chewing on the cord. Hey! All right, let's see if we can resume. So, it's important for us to be clear about what kind of game we want to run. Do we want to do that old school-esque death is present all the time? It is a constant companion, as they say in Star Trek. Death is a friend, a constant companion that reminds us to treasure every moment because they'll never come again. Is that how we want our role-playing games to run? Or do we want them to be a little more, you might, bad things will happen, but you're going to relatively, your character will survive. They'll just be beat up a lot. Then maybe this other stuff will go on. That's something for the session 0. But I think it's important to make sure that you actually do have that discussion with your players on session 0 to make sure that everyone's on the same page. Because one of the things you don't want to do is have it where one of your players is no death. Like, they don't want to have anything to do with it at all. And everyone else is saying, yeah, go ahead, kill my character, don't care, we'll make a new one, not a big deal. And then have an imbalance in the party of those kind of opinions that leads to conflict amongst people that could have otherwise been avoided. Especially if people had just talked about it. So make sure you're talking about it. Make sure that people are clear. And if you're comfortable with, like, I can, murder, death, kill any of these players' characters, but this player's character is, sacred cow, not going to kill them. Sorry, probably not the right phrase. I'm used to Warhammer, wargaming, where that phrase is used all the time. My apologies if that offended anyone. Not my intention. But that character is, the not to be killed character. And if you're comfortable with that kind of thing in your game, more power to you. No stress. I'm not telling you how to game. And maybe that's important, But where I'm coming from right now is, the reason why I'm doing this video right now is I spent some time today reading through the rules for death and dying in the Prince Valiant storytelling game, because I've been doing a solo game of that in my free time and kind of enjoying the process of just playing the game slowly but surely with a journal as I go. And I was reading through it and I realized the storytelling game, they explicitly state that your character won't die when they get defeated in combat. It's part of the story. Like, no one has to die when they reach 0 health. And they give all sorts of suggestions, like the character may be incapacitated, the character may be unconscious, the character may be captured, the character may just surrender. All sorts of things could happen. The character may be poisoned and have to recover from that poison, but the character will not be dead. And I thought, well, this is interesting because it's a very narrative style game. But it's a narrative style game where combat is a present thing. It is a medieval style game where flashing swords and shattering shields are a regular part of the story. And they should be, because of the genre it's in. But your character is safe. And it made me think, is this something that we really should explore more in an OSR or old school Renaissance kind of gameplay? Instead of the automatic, dead at 0 hit points, I'm still kind of a fan of, death should be a part of the game. I'm very much a fan of that. Don't think that I've lost my touch. But what if there's other options? And I think those other options are cool. So, sure, character could be dead at 0 hit points, especially if the character is abandoned by their companions on the battlefield and there's a bunch of, wild animals that are just going to eat it. Okay, that's fine. That's you play the game, you take your chances, right? But what if we spend more time thinking of alternatives? Like, for example, that character, maybe they actually, were just knocked unconscious. The animals took them back to their den, and then they woke up, and now they have a chance to try to escape. Maybe it was some goblins that captured them. Now they've been beat up, they've been treated badly, and now they have to render them or try to manage an escape plan. If all a party was wiped out, well, instead of having them be dead, even after they've failed their death saves, and everyone's like, oh, we're all dead, oh my gosh, maybe they are. Or maybe you can just, DM fiat this into saying, well, actually your characters were all just rendered unconscious for now. And when you wake up thinking that this is it, thinking that that was the end, suddenly you're in a new place and now you've got to escape. You've got to figure out, and maybe you find out in your escape that you actually did die. And this is part of the afterlife or purgatory, and you're trying to escape from it to allow yourselves to get back to your bodies so you can be successfully resurrected by the church that is doing your party a favor because you did them a favor so many sessions ago, yada, 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 yada. You see kind of where I'm going with this? It doesn't have to be an end. It can be part of the adventure. And generally, I'm a fan of taking anything that people tend to not like and seeing if we can make it part of the adventure. Same with shopping days, but that's a different video. So I know this is kind of a little random and stuff like that, but I recommend that we all kind of give that some thought. I've been giving it some thought, and I'm going to give it some more thought, and I'm not promising I'll ever change my mind on my stance of, old school, you should be dead at 0 hit points, maybe 1 death saving throw, but that's it. But it's something to keep percolating in the old brain pan and say, you know what, maybe there are circumstances when dead is not actually dead, and that's okay. And maybe we can run games where we just say, you know what, this is going to be a fun game. We're not going to be playing this grim and gritty and dark and this is going to be a fun, lighthearted dungeon romp. The monsters don't bleed. When they die, there's no bodies. They just vanish and a crystal is left behind, very anime style. Or the loot is dropped and you just kind of go and pick up the items. And your character's not going to be able to die. Other things will happen, but your characters won't die, and just kind of state that out front. Or maybe we're like, well, we're going to run a more socially based campaign. It's going to be more like Bridgerton, and we want everyone to kind of get into that mindset. And so part of that is I want you to understand that your characters are when you're defeated in social combat, you're not dead. You're just going to be defeated. And so get used to that mindset. And so that's just something that's interesting. In another video, I may discuss my feelings on hit points versus stamina, because I am definitely on the stamina crowd when it comes to that. But we'll discuss that another time. In the meantime, thank you for stopping by. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and peace be with you. Bye-bye now.